I can pinpoint to a moment exactly when my interest in music started. I was on a bus on a school field trip, and I was maybe 14 years old, 15 years old. One of the guys on the bus had one of those little school cassette players that they use in language lab, you know, like a little, sort of like that big with the 4 buttons on the end, you know. And he had a Ramones cassette that his brother had gotten at college, or like his brother had gotten the Ramones album and made a cassette for him, and he was playing this first Ramones album. I thought it was just the funniest thing ever. So we were on this really long field trip, and we just kept playing this Ramones cassette over and over again, and I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. I couldn't believe anybody would make music like that. And like, I recognized that they were trying to make this sort of bubblegum pop music, but it sounded so blown up and so like inept that it was really charming. So I wrote down the name of the band in my notebook, and like when we got back to town, within a day, I had gone to the record store in town and asked if they could order that album for me. And I don't know if they still have these, but they used to in like sort of small town record shops, they used to have these things called the Schwann Record Guide, which is this giant sort of library dictionary size reference book of all the records in print. And so this sort of matronly lady at the record store flipped through the Schwann Record Guide and found the Ramones album and ordered it for me. And I was like on pins and needles for the couple of weeks it took for that album to make its way to Missoula, Montana. And I kept calling him and asking him if he'd come in. I'm sure I made a real nuisance of myself. And then they called me and said the record came in, and I raced down there and I bought that album. I played that record, like, play it, flip it over, play the other side, flip it over, play it again, flip it over, play it over again. And I listened to that record sort of continuously for about, I don't know, about 2 weeks. And in the time between when I first heard it and when it finally arrived, my recollection of this hilarious record that I'd heard just kept growing. I was imagining that, you know, when I'd play this record, that it was just going to be this like buffoonish, clowny thing. Over the sort of methodical listening and re-listening to this first Ramones album again and again and again, at some point it stopped being funny. Like, I was playing it for all my friends, like, you got to hear this record, it's the stupidest thing ever. And at some point, like, it stopped being just a novelty and became the best music in the world, the best thing I'd ever heard. And in this small circle of friends of mine, we all sort of started becoming really obsessive Ramones fans. And then I found out they had another record available, and so I instantly ordered that record. Then I found out there was another record, and I ordered that one. Every single thing that I've done in music or in, you know, this sort of profession that has overwhelmed the rest of my life, I can trace to that one moment of hearing the Ramones cassette on a school bus. There are times when I think, you know, I was really lucky that on that field trip, when I was in that susceptible mode, that, you know, I didn't end up hearing like a Rush record or a Grateful Dead record or something. I mean, who knows how my life would have gone if I had, you know.